Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today, we're taking a look at the characters of Avengers, Infinity War, but here's the
Oh,
twist.
a twist.
We're not looking at them from the perspective of the movie itself. We're diving into a list from the top tens, where fans ranked their favorite characters.
That's a cool angle, Really gets to the heart of what resonates with the audience.
It does, and I think you'll be surprised by some of the insights. I know I was. We're talking passionate arguments about the underdogs,
Oh, I love those.
unexpected connections between characters,
Really? Like what?
and even critiques of some of those big names you'd think would be untouchable.
I'm intrigued. Let's get into it.
All right, well, at the top of the list, no surprise, it's Thor.
Yeah, makes sense. He really goes through it in this movie, doesn't he?
Exactly, and the fans really picked up on that. It's not just about Stormbreaker, although that's pretty awesome.
Oh, for sure.
But what's striking is the comments about his emotional arc. Losing Loki and Heimdall right at the start, that hits hard.
It sets the tone for the whole film, really.
Yeah, there's one comment that stuck with me. Someone said, comic book Thor could have taken Thanos down single-handedly.
I mean, I'm not sure I agree with that, but I get where they're coming from.
Right, it's that classic hero narrative. But Infinity War is more nuanced than that. It's Thor's vulnerability, that grief and rage that fuels those powerful moments.
And makes him so much more relatable. He's not just this invincible god anymore.
Exactly. And then there's Iron Man, always a fan favorite, landing at number 2. The humor, that nanotech suit,
Oh, that suit was amazing. The technology.
but also his relationship with Peter Parker. You really get that father figure dynamic.
Speaking of Peter, remember that scene where Iron Man lands on Titan and draws first blood against Thanos?
You could feel the energy in the theater.
Yeah, everyone was like, yes, he's got this.
It was a small victory, but it felt huge in that moment.
Though some people argue Thor drew first blood earlier in the film.
Yeah, but it felt different with Iron Man somehow. It was personal.
More strategic.
And it showed Thanos, even for a second, that he wasn't invincible.
Right, which brings us to an interesting one. Thanos himself. The big bad, coming in at number 3. What I didn't expect,
What?
some fans had empathy for him.
It's a trip, right? I mean, the guy erases half the universe. But then you see these comments about his backstory, his motivation.
His love for Gamora, even if it's twisted.
It's like he's not just some evil caricature.
Remember that scene sacrificing Gamora for the Soul Stone, that single tear rolling down his cheek?
Oh, yeah.
Is it genuine grief? Is he manipulating us? It makes you question everything.
And then there's Doctor Strange, number 4, the strategic mastermind.
The fans loved his foresight, those tough choices he had to make, and of course that time stone moment.
Millions of possible futures.
One fan called him the MVP, I get it. He was thinking long game, beyond the immediate fight.
And it raises all these questions about destiny, free will, did he orchestrate everything, even his own defeat?
Whoa.
And rounding out the top 5, the one that really got me, Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, that death scene.
It was just brutal. That youthful innocence, that plea to Tony, I don't want to go.
You felt the stakes in that moment. It wasn't just a superhero movie anymore.
And he was just so relatable. A kid in over his head, trying to do the right thing. How can you not feel for him?
And the impact of that ending, man, we're left with this loss, this uncertainty. Can they undo it? Can they bring everyone back?
That's a question for another time. All right, so we talked about the top 5 fan favorites, but there's a whole roster of characters in Infinity War that sparked some serious love from the fans.
And I think it's those choices, beyond just the obvious big names, that really reveal something interesting about what resonates with people.
Like Gamora, for example.
Oh, Gamora, yeah.
She comes in at number 6 on this list, and it's easy to see why. She's so fierce, independent, and defiant, even against Thanos.
She's a survivor, that's for sure. And the fans saw that strength in her. There was this one comment, I loved this. It said, she's one of the few who can look Thanos in the eye and make fun of him. Like, seriously.
It's true. She doesn't back down from him, even knowing what he's capable of, which, makes her sacrifice on Vormir that much more tragic.
Absolutely. She fought him every step in the way.
And speaking of characters who, defy expectations, let's talk about Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket, yeah, he's come a long way.
Right, from that cynical space pirate to a character who forms, these genuine bonds, especially with Thor.
That unlikely friendship is a highlight for a lot of fans.
Oh, it's one of my favorites, for sure.
I mean, you've got this gruff, talking raccoon and the god of thunder, and they click.
I know. It's a testament to the writers, the filmmakers, that they made that pairing work so well.
And it's not just about the humor, although there's plenty of that. You see those moments of genuine care.
Like when Rocket gives Thor the prosthetic eye.
Yeah, that's a small moment, but it speaks volumes. And then Rocket promises to get Bucky's arm back.
Oh, yeah.
Which, let's be real, is so Rocket.
Totally. But it shows his loyalty to his friends, even if he doesn't always show it in a conventional way.
He's got that tough exterior, but a big heart underneath it all.
Now, there were some characters who got a bit more of a mixed reaction from fans, Captain America, for example.
Yeah, Cap didn't quite have the same impact in this film as he's had in others.
It's tough with a cast this big, right? Giving everyone their due.
Some fans felt like his role was a bit sidelined, but, maybe that was intentional.
Intentional, you think?
It could be setting up something bigger for later, or maybe it was just a matter of focus, letting other characters take the lead this time around.
Okay, that makes sense. It is Infinity War, not Captain America. Infinity War.
Exactly. And then there's Scarlet Witch.
She's powerful, no doubt, but some fans felt she didn't really get a chance to shine.
Her screen time was limited, yeah, but her connection with Vision, their fight to protect the Mind Stone, that was all very emotionally charged.
That's true. Their story arc is definitely one to watch in the future.
Speaking of the Mind Stone, we can't forget about Vision himself. His fate is so closely tied to those Infinity Stones.
And his death at Thanos' hand, man, that was a pivotal moment.
It really highlighted the stakes, the consequences of this conflict.
You realize those Infinity Stones aren't just like these abstract objects of
They
power.
have a real impact on the characters, the world.
And Vision's death, it really pushed Wanda to the brink.
Yeah, the ramifications of that are going to be huge.
All right, well, let's talk about some of those characters who, while they might not have had a ton of screen time, still sparked interesting conversations among the fans.
Oh, yeah, like who?
Well, Nebula, for instance.
Nebula, interesting.
She's been on a journey, that's for sure. From Thanos' abused daughter to, well, a reluctant ally of the Guardians.
She's such a complex character, driven by pain, anger, a thirst for revenge.
But you also see glimpses of vulnerability, a desire for connection.
And one fan commented that they were really invested in her overall arc, and I get that. I'm curious to see where she goes from here.
And then there's Proxima Midnight.
One of Thanos' children, right?
Yep. And I'm not going to lie, one fan simply said they love her name.
Sometimes it's the simple things, right? A cool name, a striking design, it can spark that initial interest, that connection.
Absolutely. Okay, but we got to address the elephant in the room, right?
Oh, you mean?
Hulk. Or rather, the lack thereof.
Yeah, a lot of fans were disappointed that he didn't play a bigger role in the fight against Thanos.
It was definitely a surprising choice. After that opening scene, you figure, okay, Hulk's going to be a major player.
Yeah, you think he's gonna smash.
But instead, he just refuses to come out. And Bruce Banner's left struggling to control this force that seems to be having its own internal conflict.
It makes you wonder, what did Thanos do to him?
Right. What trauma did he inflict that's left Hulk so shaken?
Definitely left fans wanting more. I'm sure there's more to that story.
Oh, for sure. We haven't seen the last of Hulk. Now, on the other hand, we have Corvus Glaive.
Corvus Glaive.
Yeah. One of Thanos' Black Order, he actually got some praise from fans.
Really? What did they like about him?
His design, his efficiency, the way he moved.
Interesting. He was certainly memorable, even with limited screen time.
It's funny how certain characters just, like, click with audiences. Sometimes it's not about having this huge role or a complex backstory.
Sometimes it's a visual, a line, a moment that just grabs you.
And that's what's so cool about this list from the top 10s. It shows us that there's something for everyone in Infinity War.
Exactly. It's not just about power levels or who wins the fight.
It's about those individual connections we make with the characters.
And that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, wanting to know more.
So as we continue our deep dive, keep that in mind. These characters are more than just names on a list.
They represent different sides of the human experience, different struggles, different triumphs, and they connect with us on a deeper level.
So what other characters stood out to you? Who surprised you? Whose story are you most curious about?
Well, there are a few characters who are notably absent from this list, which I think raises some interesting questions.
So we've talked about those fan favorites, the underdogs, heck, even Thanos getting some surprising empathy from the fans. But there were a few pieces missing in this puzzle. Characters who didn't even make the list.
And sometimes those absences, they really speak volumes.
Like, where were they during all this? What were they up to during this whole cosmic chaos?
Right.
The biggest question mark for me, gotta be Hawkeye.
Oh yeah, Hawkeye, totally MIA.
I mean, he was a key part of the Avengers, and then, poof, gone. What's the deal?
It fueled a lot of speculation, that's for sure. Some fans figured he retired, maybe enjoying some family time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Others thought, hey, maybe he's on some secret mission, off doing something we haven't seen yet.
Ooh, intriguing. Like, what if he's the key to reversing the snap?
Right, or there's that darker theory, something happened to him off screen.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, not a happy thought, but maybe that explains why everyone's so devastated,
It's interesting how the absence of a character can spark so much discussion, right?
Totally. It creates this void, and the fans were great at filling those in, coming up with theories and interpretations.
It's what we do. And let's not forget about those characters who, while they might not have had a ton of screen time, still had a big impact on the story.
Like, who are you thinking of?
Well, Atri, for example, the Dwarf King.
Oh yeah, Atri. Without him, no Stormbreaker.
Exactly. I mean, he forged the weapon that gave Thor a fighting chance against Thanos.
Yet, he doesn't even crack the fan list. It's a reminder that even those working behind the scenes, making what might seem like small contributions, can play a huge role.
It really does take a village, even in a superhero movie.
Absolutely. And speaking of teamwork, one thing that stand out to me about Infinity War is how all these different groups come together.
The Avengers, the Guardians, the Wakandans.
Yeah, like a massive superhero team up. It's what we've all been waiting for.
And what's interesting is they actually manage to work together, even if it's a little messy at times.
Right, they have different personalities, different backgrounds, but they find a way to put that aside and face this common threat.
It's a powerful message about unity, working towards a common goal.
And in a world that often feels so divided, that's a message we need now more than ever.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this Infinity War character list, I'm just left with this sense of awe at the sheer scope of it all.
It's a testament to the power of storytelling, of creating characters that resonate with audiences on such a deep level.
We see heroes rise, villains fall, the true cost of sacrifice. But ultimately,
I think Infinity War reminds us of the importance of connection, of standing together.
of community. And that's a message that goes way beyond just a superhero movie.
It's something we can all take with us into our own lives, our own challenges.
So to everyone listening, we encourage you to keep exploring the world of Infinity War. Rewatch the film, dive deeper into these characters, and come up with your own theories.
And share those theories. Let's keep the conversation going.
Because in the end, it's those conversations, those connections we make that truly bring these stories to life.
And that's the magic of fandom, right? It's a shared experience, a way to connect with others who get it, who are just as passionate about these stories.
And who knows, maybe those missing characters will make a triumphant return, sparking even more debate and discussion. But until then,
Keep those theories coming.
keep diving deep.